Why, hello there, Blazer fans. It's been a minute. I mean, I've talked to you on game day in the fifth quarter, but gosh, Courtside Monday. I don't think I've had one since like draft time, preseason camp, right? We've been busy over here, and there's a lot of stuff going on in the Blazers world. But we're here today. Chris Burkhardt here with you, joined by my now good friend, Brenden Slaughter. Brenden, we used to see each other in passing. Now we're just going to work together all the time now that we're transitioning you to these the crazy hours. This is the thing, though. You poor soul. You really are. I mean, first off, that morning show hour slot, that's not normal. Like, who wakes up at 4 o'clock to come do radio from 6 to 9? That's crazy. And now you get to do, you're going to start getting used to the Blazer shift where you're like, who starts their shift at 4 o'clock in the afternoon and works until midnight?
I mean, I'll say this, it's good to see you, Chris. 2 days in a row. I guess we didn't see each other, but we heard each other yesterday,
Correct.
so that counts. But no, everyone's different. My former host was, there with bells on in the morning at 6 a.m. I was a more night person who transitioned to doing morning radio because it was the job that I wanted. But as we look at it now, Chris, I'm like, I actually don't mind working nights. I actually don't. It's not that big of a deal.
Yeah, it's fun. You'll get used to it, I promise. But no, he's here with me, and we're going to talk a little Blazers, man. It's been a crazy little run for these Portland Trail Blazers, Brenden. The start to the season has more than had its ups and downs, its ebbs and flows. I mean, you go back to that season opener, that loss against Golden State, and you're like, oh, this is ugly. This is gonna be a real ugly season. And then they start putting a couple good games together. They lose one to NOLA, then they bounce back and they look good doing it. You're like, okay, I see what they're like. This, they're gonna be competitive. And we talked about how, multiple times how I think this is identity of this team. Like, yeah, they're going to lose a lot of games, but they're going to try to look good doing it. They're going to be competitive. They're not going to roll over, right? And they go through and they go to the Kings and they get down early and they battle back and you're like, okay, that's what I'm talking about. There's the fight. And then they get the upset win against the Clippers. And then, of course, Oklahoma City takes care of them. And you're like, yeah, it's okay. Oklahoma City is one of the best teams in the NBA. And you keep going down. Okay, the Suns fought hard in that one. Pelicans, took care of business, man. You're like, yeah, things are looking good. We got the Pelicans number. I like this. And then you hit the road and you take a couple lumps, and then you get that game last week against Memphis where they just break the doors off on you, man. I mean, you lose by 45 points. It's the seventh worst loss in franchise history. Crazy enough, like half of the top 10 losses in franchise history have come in the last 5 years. And that was, quite honestly, the lowest that I have felt this team in a long time. I mean, even that season opener, that was a 36-point loss. You didn't feel down. You're like, it's the Warriors, who shockingly right now are, a number one team in the West. And you're like, okay, this loss, though, this is different. This Memphis team, they didn't have John Morant. They didn't have Marcus Smart. They didn't have Desmond Bane. They come in hobbling. And you lose to them that bad. And so that was by far, I felt like after that game was the worst that I had felt the vibes around this team following a loss. And to the point that Coach Billups took a little extra time to get to the presser that night, Brenden. And I was quite honestly like, are they firing him like right now? Because he's running about 5 minutes behind. This is weird, right? And so he finally comes in. You find out he was having a word with the team, which he doesn't always do. And then at Monday, they had immediate availability. And Robert Williams talks about how they kind of had an airing of grievances. They let the cat out of the bag, so to speak. They talked about the elephant in the room. They called each other out, and they put each other on blast as a team because he said, things need to be said. Okay, so then how do you respond on your next game, which is against the Minnesota Timberwolves? Because that's what matters. How do you respond? And I talked about it all on game day, Brenden, how all you need to do was just play competent basketball. Win-loss did not matter following that just awful defeat against the Grizzlies. You just need to play competent basketball. Well, they played more than competent basketball. They came out and just beat them. Destroyed them. 122-108 victory in the first game of the Emirates NBA Cup. And you're like, whoa, bounce back. That was great. What's going on? And then you have to face them again the very next night. And you're like, okay, same thing. It's going to be tough to beat any team 2 nights in a row like this, especially a team that has Anthony Edwards and all the. And what do? Beat them again.
Right.
106-98. This time behind a career high 33 points from Shaedon Sharpe and the 17-point, 12 rebound, 8 block performance from Donovan Clingan. And you're like, oh my gosh, what is happening? They just took these 2 games they shouldn't have won. After that loss, they're turning around. And then you had the last game against the Atlanta Hawks on Sunday, just last night, where they came out slow out of the gates after 3 days off. And our insider, Sean Hyken, tweeted, like, this isn't the start you would expect after 3 days off. And you're like, uh-oh, are the wheels falling right back off? And they put it together, got the comeback, and they got the win. And so now here your Blazers are. They went from their worst loss of the season, 7th worst loss in franchise history. That is more than 50 years of playing basketball here in the Rose City. And on the heels of that just terrible loss, they have rattled off 3 straight wins and are now sitting at 6-8 overall. Still outside of the play-in, right? But, I mean, still early on. I don't think this team's a playoff team. I don't think anybody does. But when you look at the standings, you're like, realistically, they're a game out of being one of the play-in teams right now. Just a game behind 7-7 Dallas. So you're like, that's a turnaround. That is a massive turnaround how they were able to do that in those 3 games. And I think the best part about the way they've been able to turn this around, Brenden, is that they've been able to turn it around not on the backs of Anthony Simons, because Anthony Simons only played, like 5 minutes in that first game against Minnesota before he went out with a chest injury, and now he hasn't played due to illness. He hasn't played in basically these last 3 games. They haven't done it with DeAndre Ayton, who has been hurt. He's dealing with a finger injury. So, again, you go back to that Minnesota game, didn't play in the first one. Robert Williams didn't play the second of that back-to-back. Donovan Clingan's getting the start. They have Jeremy Grant in there, but he's not, winning these games for them offensively. Defensively, he's been phenomenal these last 3 games. Probably the best 3-game stretch that we've seen him in a Blazer uniform on the defensive side of the ball. But they've been winning these games, Brenden, and Rip City out there listening. There's more than just Brenden. Brenden, you're just going to get used to me saying your name. It's easy when you're there on the other side of the glass. But they've been winning these games on the backs of who? They've been winning these games on the backs of a rookie Donovan Clingan, their young guys in Shaedon Sharpe, good games from Denny Avdia, great minutes from Rupert, Chris Murray, Scoot Henderson. Scoot Henderson in that game against the Hawks, he didn't fill it up scoring-wise. In fact, he had what you would call probably a poor night scoring, right? He only ended up with 6 points, and he was the starting guard, but he had 10 assists in that one. So as Coach Billups said after the game, he didn't fill up the stat sheet scoring-wise, but he did everything we needed him to do and was making the right passes, leading the offense. Love to see it. They've been winning these games on the backs of fantastic defensive performances from Toumani Camara. And they've been winning these games off of incredible night after night performances right now from Delano Banton. So you look at this team and you're like, okay, Vet's not playing, Vet's hurt. It's time to give it to the young guys. I mean, you look at the starting lineup last night, the only air quote, vet on there was Jeremy Grant. You had second-year guy Scoot Henderson, third-year guy Shaedon Sharpe, rookie Donovan Clingan, second-year guy Toumani Camara, and then Jeremy Grant in your starting lineup. And then your bench rotation, again, Ryan Rupert, Delano Banton, Robert Williams, Denny Avdia, Chris Murray. Bunch of young guys. And yeah, Robert Williams been in the league for a minute, but he's only 27. Just nice to see him playing. But and he's a vet. I'll give you that. So you basically have 2 vets outside of all this young team. Because Denny Avdia even, he's a vet, yeah, but he's only, 23 years old? So you look at this team, and they're doing it on the backs of just these young, hungry Blazers. These guys just want to go out and play. And that's good to see. It's absolutely good to see. So you get these performances from the young guys, and it shows me that, again, the wheels will fall off of this 3-game streak eventually, right? They're not going to rattle off, 20 straight and all of a sudden they're looking at like, it's just not. But when the young guys are the reason that you're winning these games right now, and the reason you have a 3-game win streak is because of your young guys, it tells me that maybe, just maybe, Brenden, they're going in that right direction finally.
I mean, yeah, there were a lot of good things to see the last couple games. And, I think more than anything, I love seeing Shaedon Sharpe just be that guy, right? You talked about it a lot in the fifth quarter last night and on game day. Leading into it, I said one of my keys was let Shaedon cook. And, Shaedon cooked last night. And I think, like what you guys were saying, Shaedon Sharpe is the guy who I think people would like to see kind of take the reins and kind of be that Batman, so to speak, as far as the guy on this team. And I think he's shown capability of it. Like he even showed me even more last night. Like the game against Timberwolves, he had his over 30 points, but he needed a lot of shots to get there. He was more efficient this last night against the Atlanta Hawks. And, man, that three-pointer, the step back to give the Blazers the lead late in the game, like that was, as Travis Demers said, big boy basketball.
It was big boy basketball. And the crazy, like you talk about that shot in particular. I mean, talking to Blazer fans and the comments I've heard on social and the comments I've heard talking to me is I've heard like, that shot looked familiar. A little step back, a 3 fading away over the outstretched arm of the defender.
Yeah, maybe a little something familiar.
Yeah, a little Damian Lillard-esque. But, I mean, Shaedon Sharpe goes and has a career-high 33 points and then balances that out the very next game with a 32-point performance. And not only was it a 32-point performance against the Hawks, I believe he scored the last 11 points for the Trail Blazers. So when they needed the buckets, he was there. And that 3-point shot you just alluded to, like that was not an easy shot. And it was also end of the shot clock because I think that the team kind of forgot how much time was left. And, oh, gosh, I got to put this up, step back, and it just drains it. And so, again, he has the last 11 points. The young guy leads it. Delano Banton comes in, has a young roster with him. They're going kind of putting all the inexperienced young guys out there. And what do? They go on a 17-0 run in the third quarter to get back in the game. So it's like, again, the way this team is playing right now, you see signs of life, which is good. And that's all I've wanted. Signs of life. I've wanted this team to look good on the court, understanding that they're going to lose ball games, right? When you look at the standings, like this team they're not a Golden State. They're not an Oklahoma City. They're not a Houston, right? They're not a Denver who's sitting there at 7-5, and they're not even a Minnesota who's struggling right now. But again, they have Anthony Edwards and Rudy Gobert and Julius. Like they're going to figure that out. But guess what? The Blazers have 2 wins over them right now, 2-1 out of 3 games, and it's all on the backs of the young guys, which is exactly what you've wanted right now. That's what I think you've wanted for the longest time if you're a Blazer. So now that just opens up the door and the question, so what do you do with all those vets? Because you're going to get to a point where you're going to have to offload those vets because you need to open the door for the young guys to play. Because that's the conundrum here. Is you want to see Donovan Clingan more, you want to see Scoot, you want to see Shea, but at the same time, you have all those vets on the floor and they gotta play. And nobody who's making $30 million a year is just going to, no. I want to go out there. I want to play. And if you put me on the court, I'm going to try to win games. That's what I do. Oh, you aren't going to play me? Then trade me. And so you got to do your best to not ruin the locker room. It's a delicate balance, and they have to figure that out. One thing's for certain, the team will change throughout the year. There's going to be some moves at some point. But right now, you went from easily the lowest you've felt in maybe the last calendar year of basketball after that Memphis game to probably the best you felt as a Blazer fan just 1 week later. That's pretty good. And I think that goes to the coaching staff. You got to give them credit. As much as you want to dog the coaching staff, you got to give them credit when credit is due. And I think they did a good job getting this team to respond these last 3 games. And that's great. And again, the best part about it is it's on the back of the young guys. If you want to join in on the conversation with us here today, 503-248-0620 is the telephone number. You can also go to youtube.com where we're live streaming all the time. Go to Rip City Radio, join the conversation there. Or you can hit Brenden and I up on Twitter. I'm at Chris J. Burkhardt. I believe Brenden is at B-Slot.
B_slot.
B_slot. That's right. Well, that's where you can find him. and start tweeting him more Blazer content because he needs that to fill up his inbox. The Beaver content's just going to do him in. He can't take it. That's
Classic, man.
all right, but we're going to take a quick break here on Courtside. When we come back, we're going to listen to some audio. We got Chris Murray, Denny Avdia, Chauncey Billups from practice today, actually. Going to hear what they had to say as they get ready to hit the road. Tough little road slate coming up, too. The Blazers start that on Wednesday against Oklahoma City, and then they got 2 games in Houston. That Memphis Grizzly team where they'll be looking for a little bit of redemption, and then the Indiana Pacers before heading back home. All right, plenty of more to get to here. Don't go anywhere. Courtside continues after the break right here on your home of the Blazers, Rip City Radio 620. Welcome back into Blazers Courtside Monday. Chris Burkhardt here with you. Having a little bit of fun talking Blazers because, man, they've been on a tear. We're going to have to eliminate commercial breaks, though, Brenden. My wife texted me and said that my youngest was not happy that I stopped talking.
Hey, man, you got to keep the wife happy, and especially keep the little ones
I
happy.
say this one's less about the wife and it's about keeping the 2-year-old happy.
This is true. Yeah, it is the challenge of all parents out there, Chris. So yeah, we might have to just eliminate it. I'll wear the L on that one.
Yeah, I know. That's my trouble. I got 4 little ladies over there, the wife and the 3 kids to take care of, and they're all little built-in. Hey, it's a good part about kids. I got built-in #1 fans. It's beautiful.
Oh yeah, always, man, forever. They're gonna be outside with the little board. Chris is our #1, man. I love it. I love it.
There we go. All right, but this is Courtside Monday. Got plenty of Blazer talk to get to, and again, this team has been really incredible these last 3 games. Brenden, welcome to the bandwagon. You're gonna get real comfortable with this team, my man, doing all these games. But it's just so refreshing to see the young guys finally pulling through. And I've said this for a minute, and that is that I truly believe that this team wants Shaedon Sharpe to be the guy. They want him to be their Batman, like you said a second ago, right? And I think he's starting to round into that form. And what he's done the last few games is really play the way you kind of expected him to. I mean, I thought he took the jump from his rookie year to his second year, and then you were hoping that he would take the jump again. And it started out a little bit hurt, obviously toward the labrum in training camp, so he missed the first few games. But then he comes in, he's finally rounding in the form, and I don't think those 30-point games are anomalies. I think those are things that you can start to count on him for. Now, he's not going to go out and average 30 points a night. At least I don't think so. That's hard to do in the NBA. But he's going to have those games. I mean, you're watching that, and he just does it with such ease and starts to learn himself and get comfortable with it. You're like, okay, that 50 piece that's around the corner. Like he has a 50 piece in him somewhere. And then you get him, and then you put good pieces around him. Like, again, Scoot Henderson, I've never once believed they drafted him to be the guy. I think they drafted him because there he was. They had the 3rd overall pick. He was the best player available. It made sense. Take him. And they need a guard because they're going to end up moving off Dame, and it was all in the writing was all on the wall. Now, Scoot, if he can play good defense, which he's getting to the point where he's playing pretty good defense, and he's getting you 10 assists a night. Like, if the scoring's there, that's even better, but you can afford where he's only going to have 10 points a night if Shea's scoring like this. They're going to have to get scoring eventually because, again, Donovan Klingen's not a scoring big. You got Tumani Kamara, who has to be on the floor. He's not a scorer. Defensively, he's absolutely a juggernaut, though. There's numbers that show that he might be one of the best defenders in the league. So that's good. But, again, it's just refreshing right now that you're seeing all this happen with the young guys. And one of those young guys is Delano Banton. Okay, now Delano is it's an interesting young guy in him because Delano Banton, he's 25 years old. So again, he counts as a youngin, but he jumped around a little bit. People forget that Portland is his 3rd team. When he arrived in Portland, that was his 3rd team in 3 years. Spent time in Toronto, had a as they say, a cup of coffee in Boston, and then now he's here in Portland. And I think it was Blazer Banner who tweeted out this kind of like akin to like a Wesley Matthews, where they don't really know what they have with him in Utah. He hits the free agent market, comes to Portland, turns into a stud. And maybe Banton can be that way, but Delano Banton's been a huge reason that the Blazers have been able to mount these late comebacks, these second half comebacks, and these wins. I mean, in that game against Atlanta, he was great. He came off the bench and just got the team going, did everything you needed him to do. He rebounds, he has assists, he plays defense. Sometimes he plays a little bit reckless, but it's a fun reckless. He's like a slightly more in control Al-Farouq Aminu. like when Al-Farouq Aminu put the ball on the floor, you're like, oh no, please don't dribble.
So okay, so my question with that, Chris, because I first of all, no slander for the Chief. I love me some Chief, some good memories there. A lot of wins with the Chief. But Chris, to your point, what was worse, when Aminu put it on the floor, or when you really sat back and watched his shot motion? Cock it back from your shoulder.
It was when he put it on the floor, because at least he would hit the shot now and then. When he put it on the floor, half the time he'd dribble it off his own foot. So, yeah. But Delano Banton's like that because what one thing about Chief was just he was chaotic. He played a chaotic brand of basketball. It was fun though. And Delano Banton's very chaotic too. I mean, he comes in and yeah, he's a spark plug, but he was 9 and 19 shooting, right? So he's huck it and chuck it basketball, right? So you love to see it from him, and it's not a bad thing. I like the fact because here's the thing. And I said this in the fifth quarter the other night, but you see a lot of players and I think like Scoot Henderson's one of them who are just playing a little too tight, right? You can just tell that they're just too tight. You need to relax. Coach is going to bring you into the timeout and say, "Hey, loosen up, dude. Loosen up." You don't have to do that with Delano. Like he plays loose. He just knows how to do it, and it leads to that chaotic brand of basketball. And I mean that as a term of endearment because it's fun. Like I is he going to be a star? I don't know. Maybe the jury's out, but right now he's incredibly fun to watch. So I'll give him that. Now let's speaking of Delano Banton, I want to hear from the man himself because hey, when you start having good performances, they start bringing you to the podium after the game. And here's what he had to say to the media following that 114-110 win over the Hawks.
Ago we lost our scrap, we lost our fight. So just kind of just always knowing that it could always change. So just continuing to fight, and we see that. And we're trying to be the team that no one wants to play against. You come in here and you think it's never going to be easy against us. We want to play hard. We want to go hard every time, every possession. So I feel like just keeping that same mentality is going to be a big thing for us.
But when the team starts off slow, do you, as kind of like the scoring punch off the bench, do your eyes light up that knowing like you can come in and maybe have a bigger impact in that game?
Not necessarily. I think what's asked out of us every game is the same. Come in for me, be aggressive, make the right read, whether that's getting a layup or making the right pass if two's on the ball. So I think it's different. The way the game ends up being played is different every night. But I think the mentality going into the game stays the same. They want me to be aggressive. They want me to run lanes, change the tempo of the game, and play fast. So I think knowing that even if we're winning or losing, I got to come in and do the same thing. And it's always about making the right read. It's never about just scoring the ball.
You've played with some big stars. Do you see some of the same traits in Shaedon?
Yeah, man. Shay's my young boy, man. I tell him all the time where he got the keys to do something very special. You just got to be able to embrace it. It goes a long way when you just, he's young. He's very young. But, it's a blessing. It's something that all of us want. We want to be able to, be in a position to do great, to do good things. He has all the tools to be one of the better players in this NBA. He just got to stay working. And believe it himself, man. He comes out every night and, plays the best that he can. He plays hard, but whether it looks very good or it's not a good night for him, I think that he just got to keep the same mentality and keep in his routine and trust in the work he puts in, and he'll be all right.
What do you think about the way you guys were able to close out tonight, too? I mean, obviously, you talk about being a young team, it gets down to crunch time. Shane hits that shot, but you guys all kind of contribute in one way or another to pull it out.
Oh, yeah, no, it's great, man. I think with the young team, it's often hard trying to piece together games for 48 minutes. It's definitely hard to win in this league. It's my third team, so I know what it takes to win a game, I feel like. But, just kind of try and piece it together 48 minutes. That's something that we wanted to build on. Definitely we knew our third quarters. A lot of games that we hadn't been so close throughout this year. Kind of a lead at the end for either or team. So I think that this is big for us, knowing that we can pull it off. But it's great, man. We had everyone down to Chris. Chris Murray came in. He only played 7 minutes. He was crazy for us, man, coming in, changing the whole tempo of the game. A lot of stuff that he did is not on the stat sheet. But, yeah, man, Chris, Roops, I feel like those guys helped change the game for us in a small amount of time, too.
A lot of teams would struggle if they lose players like Ant and DeAndre. You guys have basically won 3 in a row without them. What does that say about the rest of this crew?
Oh, man, this is the NBA. We're all professionals, man. And one thing that I've learned throughout my year, I've always been a fringe guy in the NBA. Not to say fringe on how I've been, but just, my situation on teams, which is what they say is fringe. So I would say, it's always next man up. It's when your name's called, you got to be the professional that you are. So I think it's always going to be next man up. And we got dogs on our bench, man. So, there was times that I wasn't playing and I was waiting to play. So, it's times like this where, guys got to step up. And like I said, Chris, Roops, they've been in and out of the rotation throughout the season so far. But, they keep the same mentality every day, keep with their routine. And, they come in and impact the game for us in many ways.
Now, he talks about those young guys, and he was asked there about the plays they were able to make late in the game. I mean, we talked about Shaedon Sharpe and scoring the last 11 points for the team and just absolutely going off in the second half. But defensively, they were locked in, and they're winning games on that end. I mean, the last possession for Atlanta where they had a chance to, take a three and get that game there, it was defense from Toumani Camara and a steal that I think Shaedon Sharpe got that they ended up locking it up. defensively, they're doing what they need to do in a lot of these games lately. And that's to me, the biggest reason for the little 3-game streak here. Yes, it's nice that Klingen had a great game. Yes, it's nice that Shaden Sharp's putting it together. But defensively, I think they got the message. And I think Jeremy Grant got the message loud and clear, too, because he's been playing, like I said, might be the best 3-game stretch of his career as a Blazer when it comes to the defense side of the basketball. He's been a stud. And you look at the team last night. This was tweeted after the game by the Trail Blazers PR team. The Trail Blazers recorded 16 steals during today's win over Atlanta, their highest single-game steal total since January of 2023. It marks Portland's 3rd consecutive game of 10-plus steals. So, again, defensively, they're locked in. And then that 16 steals tied the record, or tied the second most in a game for the team in the last 10 seasons. That's impressive. The most they had was 17 in 2022. So, as much you talk about them having their bad losses, there's a lot going on because you look at the top 3 performances in steals, they're all in the last 2-3 years. So they're getting the message and they're getting going. Now, outside of the steals, there's other ways to get turnovers too. There was a couple shot clock violations in there and whatnot. And when it was all said and done, the Trailblazers forced 27 turnovers during that win, which is tied for the franchise's most forced turnovers in a game over the past 25 years. Last time they had 27, you got to go all the way back to...
Is that good, Chris?
I think it's good. You got to go all the way back to 2011 versus Washington. And then in 2009 against Washington, they had 27 as well. Those play Washington, you get turnovers. So again, it's the young guys and then the defensive side of the ball. Like that's what's been so impressive from these guys over these last handful of games. And one of the guys who's been very impressive in very, very minimal minutes is Chris Murray. So Chris Murray, I think, is really living up to that always be ready kind of next man up type thing. Coming off the bench, some nights he's playing 12 minutes, sometimes he's not playing, and then sometimes he's playing 7-8 minutes. But when he comes in, he makes an impact in those minutes, which is impressive. And that's something you heard Delano Banton say in his post-game press conference. And the media had a chance to catch up with Chris today at practice.
Big win yesterday, just like 3 in a row. I mean, the first time you guys have done that in a long time. How are things feeling chemistry-wise with you guys?
I mean, it's really good. I feel like our chemistry didn't waver at all. It was kind of a refocus last week after the loss to the Grizzlies. And when we're playing well, playing together, I mean, that's when we get these types of wins. And it definitely feels good and just to build momentum.
And how have you been able to take advantage of your minutes? Because Chauncey has mentioned you numerous times over the last 3 post games.
Yeah, I mean, just whenever the opportunity presents itself, you have to be ready. And I didn't know when that would be early this season, and it kind of happened on the fly in Minnesota. And I was ready to go and just want to make a difference in the game whenever I can. And just kind of give our guys some energy. I feel like the bench unit definitely did that yesterday, getting us back in the game. And for me, it's just being ready at all times.
You had mentioned to me, I think it was in training camp, that you really focused on your shot over this summer. Are you seeing the results of that?
Yeah, no, it feels a lot better. Just a lot of reps, probably the most shots I've ever gotten up this summer. And that hard work definitely pays off, especially in the game when I'm sitting for a while and then I come in, you got to trick your mind to think you've been in for the last 10, 15 minutes. So for me, it's just those reps in practice and just kind of shooting unconsciously.
How do you do that? Because a lot of guys talk about kind of like working their way into a game, and you can't do that. Like, you got to go in there and be ready to go.
Yeah, no, just playing with a free mind. That taught me a lot. Just kind of having that effort attitude where I had in college, where every look that I have is a good look, and I'm just confident in my shot, confident in every decision I make when I'm on the court, and you have to be ready, like right when you check into the game.
Did you change anything about your shot over the summer?
Just kind of my release point. Instead of, I had a big dip in college, had one last year, and then just worked on this year, just kind of using from the chest up. With a long wingspan, there's a lot can go wrong with that extra motion, and just kind of taking that away and keeping it simple.
You mentioned that during camp, but ever since every time you shoot, I watched that. You barely took it off. Like, it's just really quick.
Yeah, no, I'm not making that up.
Wow, he doesn't move at all. Talking about the second unit, Chauncey has talked about it a lot, coming in, changing the tide of games sometimes.
Yeah.
How much pride do you guys take in being able to come off the bench and do that?
I mean, we definitely take a lot of pride in it. It could be anyone's day at any time, and we've seen that throughout this year. And guys who are on the bench are definitely ready to play and come in and we've seen a lot of our guys make a difference coming off the bench. So, I mean, it's been big. It's gotten us back in a couple of games this year, kept the momentum going in some games, and it's just we got a lot of confident guys on the bench, and that's kind of what you need to with a young team like this, just confidence.
You and the other forwards seem to give Julius Randle a lot of trouble during that 2-game series on defense. Like, how does your length and defense fit into what identity this team is trying to build?
Yeah, I mean, you definitely have to match his physicality, especially on the defensive end, and we kind of hang our hat on defense first and creating opportunities on offense with our defense. So that's kind of gotten us back in a lot of games, kind of set the tone in a lot of games this year, and we just want to continue doing that because that's kind of what has gotten us on this winning streak.
Will you guys take this act on the road now? You won 3 in a row. Can it translate on the road? So I think you only have 1 or 2 on the road, I think.
This year? Yeah. Yeah. I mean, we're playing with a lot of confidence right now. Guys are playing together, playing the right way, and we just want to continue building that.
Can I ask one quick last one? It's fun. It's fun.
It's a zombie trip.
So Kevin Calabro has been doing this thing on games where we show like whatever team we're playing, how long it takes to get there, and like the mileage. Have you heard about this at all?
I have not, no, but I'm sure it takes a long time to get there.
It does. It depends. And then you can also take the bus sometimes or take to other like modes of transit. But your college town's getting a lot of love. How does that feel?
That's a great place to be. I mean, a lot of people don't really know about it because a lot of people don't visit Iowa willingly. So when you go to Iowa City, it's one of the best places in the world, in my opinion.
They say all the kids are going to gather around the TV when your games are on in Iowa City to watch your games. Even though I don't know if it's accurate, but we say it's true.
Oh, yeah, I like that to be true. Like a lot of diehard Iowa fans I see on the road, and passionate fans in Iowa City for sure.
How can you not love Brooke trying to get that one last question in there just to, it's a good one. It's a fun one, I promise.
Love Brooke, man.
And it is. And he has a fun little chuckle there. But no, it's good to hear from him. And you talk about, I mean, he kind of hints in there. He talks about matching physicality of the players and guarding and playing with Tamani in practice and how these things happen. Like I think the flip is switched. I mean, sometimes you need to be called out and, to get out of your comfort zone a little bit. You gotta be pushed to be uncomfortable sometimes to just get the best version of you. And right now they're playing like the best version of them. Is it going to hold up? Like, I don't know, Brenden. Like, can they win another one or two? Maybe. But we know at the end of the season, they're going to have more losses than wins. I think that the West is just too stacked. They got good East teams that they have to play. And again, this is a young team. They are still learning. But the fact that they've started to put it together and they got this little win streak going and it's on the back of the young guys, it's important. It's absolutely important. Now, you heard Brooke there ask Chris, what it was like to have a 3-game win streak. It's been a while since he had that. And you look at last year, they only had one win streak of 3 or more games, and it was game 4, 5, and 6 where they had a 3-game win streak. Other than that, it was a couple little 2-game streaks. Looks like there was one, looking at this, I think there was 3 of them. 2 games where they won back-to-backs. Other than that, it was just a bunch of one-offs. Loss, win. Loss, win. And that's what happens when you finish 21 and 61, right? So that's the goal, is to get for this team. I know everyone wants to capture the flag, but you look at that locker room. That locker room doesn't want to capture the flag. Do you really that's one thing that people need to realize? Like, yes, teams want to win, right, Brenden? But
yep,
what does capturing the flag mean?
Losing.
Well,
so that's a very tricky predicament.
Not only does it mean losing, Brenden, but it means one of the people in that locker room is, at the minimum, no matter what happens, at the very minimum, at least one person in that locker room is no longer in that locker room.
Yeah, no, that's true. That's another good way to look at it. And, it's like everyone's, I think it's all got to go back to development, Chris. It's like we know what the pillars of what this franchise, at least what we think the franchise wants to be, right? And that's, some of these young guys we talked about on the edges, like, Tamani, maybe Ryan Rupert, but all kind of supporting pillars to Scoot, Shaden, and Klingon. You talked about the glass thing yesterday, right? It's kind of where I look at it like, oh, just a glass. No, they're not going to print guys on glasses that they're not thinking are going to be here for a long time, kind of a thing. Right. So, to your point, I think it's just going to come organically and naturally. When you play a bunch of young guys, you're going to have growing pains. And I think those growing pains this year will still result in a good amount of results in the L column that put them in a good bite at the lottery apple, Chris.
Yeah, good job, by the way. You just inadvertently, by bringing up the glasses, gave me a great Christmas idea.
There you go, right? It's what I'm here for, baby.
So, my wife and I, shout out Danielle, you're the best. She's artsy and craftsy, right? So she's got into doing like vinyls, and she does shirts and all that, and makes dog bandanas. Shout out Kelly Bird Dog.
Sure.
And I have been helping out too, so I've learned the whole sublimation thing, right? I'm turning into crafty dad. Kids always want me to make shirts. I am totally going to go on whatever the hell that website is. What is it? How do you say it? Fiverr or Fiverr, or you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah,
where you can get all the freelancers. And I'm going to send them a picture of Chad, and I'm going to see if they will send me back a goofy cartoon caricature of him. And then I am going to sublimate that on a pint glass. And as you know, there's going to be a scoot glass, a Klingon glass, a sharp glass, and then there might end up being a Hiken Burkhardt Slaughter Shacker doing set of glasses that you can get.
That would be pretty good. I would invest in that. If we're talking Shark Tank investors,
we're gonna work.
Sounds like a workable idea, Chris. I like it.
Be like tonight at the Moda Center, it's Chris.
We're giving away Burkhardt glass.
It's Chris Burkhardt glass tonight.
Heck yeah, man.
First 5 fans in the building get one because that's all the time he had to make them.
First 5 fans. I love it.
Yeah.
Rest of you guys get Scoot, but if you get there early, you're one of the first 5 to get a Burkhardt glass.
Absolutely.
I love it.
All right. Hey, Kirk chimes in too. He wants to get a DB Hooper jersey. And yeah, hey, he's slowly becoming one of those fan favorites. And hey, if you can find a way to latch on and stay here for a long time, I don't think anyone will be upset with that. We're going to take a break here on Courtside. When we come back, though, we're going to look at this upcoming road trip. Things get a little bit harder here for the Blazers. Can they get a couple wins? Because it's going to be tough to do so. But can they at least keep the vibes going high? Because I think they can keep the vibes going high even with a loss. We'll talk about it when we return here on Courtside Monday on your home of the Blazers, Rip City Radio 620. couldn't stomach college football 25 anymore just because, it gives you bad memories of this lost season for you. But you said you played GTA instead. So what GTA were you rocking?
Still just the most recent one. I'm a GTA 5 guy, but yeah, I kind of grinded, Chris. I don't know if I've ever told you this. I took my dynasty to max. After 40 years, it stops. So my dynasty that I had, that was kind of really like depressing. I was like depressed over that for like a good day. When I'm like, oh, like my top recruiting class I just signed is gone, and all that. But yeah, no, it's definitely good fun.
Okay, that's fair. Well, the reason I ask is because that personal Jesus there reminds me of playing Grand Theft Auto San Andreas.
Ooh, that's a good one. That's a very good one too. I personally am pretty excited for the next one whenever it comes out.
Yeah,
but yeah, it's it's absolutely a good pull.
Hey, I want Rockstar. I know they went with the whole online thing and printed money like every other stupid company right now. But I could definitely deal with a Red Dead Redemption 3.
Oh,
I'd be fine with that. I'd be fine. Man, I tried playing Call of Duty the other day. I'm like, yep, I'm getting too old for this. It's not fun. Like, this game has not changed in 10 years.
I love it. I'm
like, I'm going to try the new Black Ops. Let's see. Oh, spawn sniped, spawn killed, shot in it. Yep, it's still the same dumb Call of Duty I've always played.
You're right, just spawn and just, yep, I totally know you're feeling, brother.
Unbelievable. But I could pay $15. That's what Call of Duty gets me. Now they get all these young kids who want to buy the skins for their character. It's a first-person shooter.
I know, right? We don't see it.
The only time the camera pans out and shows your character is when you die.
Yep. Or like the loading screen where you're gearing. It's like nobody sees that.
Gosh.
But hey, man, all about them skins.
All about them. My
That's
goodness.
That's just so funny.
My goodness. All right, we are going to finish this show talking Blazers, though, as the Blazers will hit the road now. Got a little bit of a trip. Now they get to go take on Oklahoma City. They got 2 in Houston on this trip. Another back-to-back is their front end of their schedule. They had Minnesota, the Pelicans, and now Houston front-loaded with these back-to-backs. Those are on consecutive nights too. And then on the road at Memphis, which hopefully they'll play a little bit better than they did last time those two met. And then the Pacers. And you look at the standings right now, and this is why this is going to be a rough trip. You have Oklahoma City currently the number 2 team in the Western Conference. Granted, they'll be without Chet Holmgren for a few weeks. Then they have Houston, who has quietly put together a nice little start to the season. Houston, currently the 3rd best team in the Western Conference right now. A very young team as well, just like Portland, but they got Ime Udoka, who's a really good coach and has helped turn that thing around quickly. Granted,
love what I've seen from him.
He deserves a ton more credit for the turnaround in Boston as well, not just Joe Mazzulla, right? So their first 3 games are against the 2 of the 3 best teams in the Western Conference. Then, of course, you get Memphis, and Memphis is currently 8th team in the West. They've been dealing with some injuries and this and that, but again, they had your number last time you played them. And then you get the Pacers, who are currently the 6th best team in the East. Interestingly enough, though, the 6th best team in the East, the Indiana Pacers, are 6-7, and the Blazers are 6-8. So the Blazers, might fare decently there. But the point is, this 5-game trip is not an easy 5-game trip. So in order to continue the vibes high here, you don't need to win in Oklahoma. You just need to play a good game. And you need to play much better than you did just a few weeks ago when you played them and you lost to Oklahoma City. And it didn't look great. You lost to them 137-114 and pretty much got dominated start to finish. But if you can continue to play like you've been playing these last few games, where the defense leads you through these victories, where the young guys continue to play well, where Shaedon Sharpe just scores in bunches, and you take the loss but you play well, I think you'll be good. Like, if you come back on this trip 2-3, that's a good trip. You won that trip if you come back 2-3, but we'll see where they'll. They will play Wednesday, though, against Oklahoma City. Tip off at 5:00 right here on Rip City Radio. I will have Blazers game day for you at 3. Until then, Rip City, you've been awesome. And as always, Rip City, I love you.